All right, we are live. What is up, everybody? How you doing, Bryce?
Doing good, man. How about you?
Doing pretty good. Um,
Nice, nice, nice.
yeah. So,
Boys.
we've had at least another episode, or maybe two episodes since we talked about the anticipation of the SP, but we got it here, both of us. We've had it for about a week or so. I
Yeah.
think you've
Yep.
had it for like a week and a half. I've had it for like a week,
Yep.
and we've been playing with it, man.
Yeah. Yeah,
How
man.
have you been having fun, man? What do you think?
Oh yeah, man. That this is so, I come from, I'm basically a guy that loves Ableton. I use
Mhm.
Ableton in the this is where I'm at right now is Studio B. But back there, that's Studio A. And I don't have anything turned on back there, but I got push and a bunch of I got a modular over there. Oh wait, over where's it at? Right there. Modular system over there. So um, this side of the room is basically just dedicated to guitar. And so when I use this MacBook, I was typically using Ableton only, right? And just kind of recording ideas into here, and I'd bounce them over to the studio behind me to do mix downs or to fully build out a track, right? But now that I have the SP, it's like that's all I'm like 100% full throttle on the SP. Like I'm not really messing around with Ableton. I'll do different, like I'll export stuff or record things from Ableton into the SP, but for the most part, it's just strictly everything in the SP.
Right, right.
Yeah.
We're both pretty new to the SP. You do have a SP SX
Yep.
404 SX,
Yep.
which you kind of used more as an effects box more than anything. So I don't know, like what's your first thoughts of like getting used to this new workflow, and you've had
Well,
experience with other, like you said, Ableton and stuff too, so it's
yeah, yeah. So for me, like the comparison between the old SP and this new SP is they're like light years apart in my opinion. So the old SP, like you said, like you mentioned, I would pretty much just use it as an effects box. So I'd run things from Ableton into the SP, add vinyl sim, add, stutter effects, these kinds of things, and then record that back into Ableton. But this new SP completely changes the game because I can fully make tracks in the SP. Like I've been really impressed, man, with the workflow. Compared to the old SP. Now, keep in mind there are plenty of people that make beats on the SX and with the resample method, and it's them they're making dope stuff. But for me, like that way of working was just, I don't know, man. It just didn't grab me, even though
hmm
I love the sound of the SP. I love the sound of the SP.
yeah,
But that way of working on tracks just never really grabbed me. But this
right.
SP, this man, I'm all in. I'm all in. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
you've said some pretty surprising things to me about it, and I know you're into Ableton and stuff, but you're really digging this workflow, which is great. And I think, I don't know, I said this to you before. I'm not sure what you thought, but like you're a guitar guy. You just like in love with the guitar. You're trying to learn everything you can with it, and you got your big your guitar effects pedals and stuff, the whole set, and it's kind of like, it's almost like the SP is like the last guitar pedal, and it does so much cool stuff. Like, I
Yeah.
don't know,
Yeah,
to
for
me
sure.
it almost feels like that's what it is for you.
Yeah, yeah. I mean that's you're not wrong when you say that because even though I'm running it through, a lot of, like you said, some, guitar pedals and different things, when it hits the SP, I still have a ton of options. You know what I mean? With effects. You know what I'm saying? So, which is, I love that, man. I love that. Not only do I have those effects, but I have the capability of chopping things up, or, you know what I mean? Reversing things, or, it just, it's pretty dope, man.
Yeah.
So, I mean, enough about how I feel about the SP. How do you feel about the SP? This is your first SP.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
yeah. So how are you getting along with it?
Man, it's like I think for me, I've been working in DAWs most of my life since the 90s. I have worked on some hardware gear, some hardware samplers, MPC a little bit, and some other ones, but I ended up sticking with DAWs. And then like I have recently, when I jumped back into making music and stuff, have been doing stuff on the iPad a lot, and especially in Koala. Koala's like I freaking love it. And I feel like the Koala was a great precursor to moving into the world of the SP, because the workflow is so similar in how it works, that it's uncanny. It's like almost surprising. Like you almost feel like the guy who created Koala, maybe he modeled it after the SP, but I know that he didn't. But I think after the fact, he has been adding some things. But that being said, now I'm jumping into the SP. It's still, a different world. It's not exactly like Koala. It takes a little bit of time to wrap your head around the workflow of it and stuff. But I'm really liking it, and as much as I love Koala, I've worked in DAWs my whole life, and I just feel like being away from that screen, all I have is this little OLED screen, and I'm glad I have that. I'm really happy I have that. But all I have is just that, and it's just so hands-on. I mean, chopping samples is like super fun. And then like running them through effects and resampling and like exchanging pads and doing all that stuff between the pads. Everything is really simple to do. I feel like even though I've never used one, like everything's labeled, and all you have to do is press shift in whatever that label is, and you can find almost everything just through that. There's a few things that are a little bit hidden in funny
Mhm.
places, but
Yep. Yep.
that's what the manual's for.
Yeah. No, I agree. There are little tricks and, shortcut, or, what do you call it? Like, I guess, button combinations that, give you, access to features that aren't so apparent, right? Is that how you do it? Is that how you describe it?
Yeah, like the best really example of that is like, okay, how do I change the volume for each individual pad? Well, there's nothing that is obvious about that. You have to hit pitch speed, and there's the volume. And then
Yeah.
how do you pan each pad?
Right.
You wouldn't even know if you didn't look in the manual that, you have to hit
Shift.
the I think you have to hit the knob. Let me see.
I think
Yeah.
you hit
Oh
shift.
no,
Yeah.
you're right. You're
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
You have to hit the. Whoops! I started my beat. um,
Yeah.
that's weird.
Shift. Yeah.
Oh, you started your beat. I'm like, that's not my
Did
beat.
I?
I'm not that
Oh, my
good.
bad. My bad.
Yeah, you hit pitch speed, and then you hit shift, and your pan is there. So it's
Right.
like there's
Yep.
no way of knowing that other than playing around with it or the manual.
Right. But shift does a lot of things. Also, remain does a lot of things.
Yeah.
Remain, shift, mark. There's a lot of
Mhm.
secondary functions that all those buttons do.
Right.
So yeah. But yeah, I feel like it's really an intuitive piece.
Hmm.
Um, it's easy to wrap your head around how it works,
Yeah.
and I don't know. For me, coming from Ableton, where everything is in the DAW, you're using a mouse and you know that sort of thing. To come, this is like my first DAW-less experience. Like, right? You know what I mean? It's been a while since I've had just a complete, dedicated piece of hardware to work with on beat making. Man, I even want to say probably the last piece of hardware I had was the MPC 2500, that where
Hmm.
you actually work inside that piece alone and you're making beats inside of that. So this kind of takes me back to that whole thing. And I feel like it's just everything works great. It's a great layout. It's intuitive.
Yeah.
Things make sense. Once you get the muscle memory of how things are laid out, it's man, it's feeling real comfortable so far.
Yeah, totally. And it's interesting, and I have a MPC one, and that's I mean, when it comes to trying, really, it's not doesn't even make sense to compare the two because they're very different things. Even though they're very similar in a lot of ways, they're very different.
Yeah, for sure.
But one thing that's really cool is I tried, kind of rigging the MPC one so that it could be mobile. There's ways to do it. You can get a battery pack and do some things. But it's pretty cumbersome. It is possible to do it mobile. I'm not, I don't want to take anything away from the MPC. It's dope. But I've taken this out, to work, and on my lunch breaks, I just turn it on. I have a USB-C battery pack here that I can use. But it
Mm.
also has batteries. So now I have,
Hmm.
rechargeable batteries that are
So
in
have
here.
you have you used that?
This
Have
isn't
you?
even plugged in right now.
Oh wow. Okay. So have you used that battery pack straight to USB C? Have you tried
Yeah.
that? Does it work?
Oh yeah, it works great. It
Man.
absolutely,
Okay, that's
absolutely
dope.
works great. The
That's
only
dope.
limitation of that is
Yeah, you can't
obviously
sample
you
through
can't
USB. Yeah.
sample in. Yeah. So
Yeah.
speaking about that, that was like a big feature that we talked about on the previous episode that we're like, we're really excited about that. How's that experience been for you as far as like bringing sounds in, man?
Phenomenal. Love it. Love it. So I'm plugged in battery. Not battery. I'm what am I talking about? I'm plugged in power. So
Mhm.
my SP is connected to the wall, plugged into the wall, and I have a USB C running from my iPad. I don't know, you guys can't see my iPad here, but I have an iPad here, and man, it's been great. If I want to go on YouTube and sample something, boom, no problems. If I want to run something through AUM, any of the synths on my iPad, straight in, no problem.
Yeah.
And I've been using this little Nectar keyboard to play stuff from the iPad
Yeah.
into the SP, and man, it's just a phenomenal little set here, man.
Yeah.
I love it. I
Yeah.
love it. Yeah.
And that's the thing is like I always bring my iPad with me if I'm gonna be out and about, just in case I'm in a situation where it's like I have nothing to do, I can be creative.
Yeah.
And it's a great situation. And I actually feel that this is almost as good. If I know, it's pretty lightweight, even with the batteries. The batteries do make it heavier, but
Yeah.
like I feel like I can just throw it in my backpack, and it's really not a big deal to just play around with it anywhere I go. So
Right. Yeah, and
I'm
I
really
just
happy with that.
I wanted to give a heads up to anybody out there that would want to consider sampling from their iPhone or an iPad, uh, especially the older generations. You have to have
Mhm.
this little lightning adapter. You need this.
Yeah.
So this cable here is the it's running straight to the SP. So it's uh, USB C to this adapter,
Mhm.
and this adapter plugs into the iPad or iPhone. So,
Yeah.
but you do need this adapter if you're on anything that has a Lightning connection, like an
Yeah.
iPhone or an older generation iPad, non-Pro iPad, right? So
Yeah.
you have the Pro iPad, which you don't need this dongle to connect
Mhm.
to. You just run USB C to USB C. But if you have an older iPad that uses Lightning, you're going to
Yeah.
need this adapter to connect.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that's an important distinction, and if you want to power it, it has to be USB-C to USB-C.
right, yep,
And
yep.
and
That's another good point.
so and like you said, like my iPhone, I couldn't get it to work with this at first, which is a big
Yeah,
deal because I do a lot of stuff. I save stuff on my iPhone. I also do music stuff on my iPhone and sample
right.
stuff. So I want to be able to do that. And I didn't realize, and you actually helped me out with that, was the dongle. I have to have the dongle on the side of the iPhone
Exactly.
to
Yep.
make it work. I can't just use a
Exactly.
USB, a lightning to USB-C cable. That doesn't work. So
Right. Yep. Yeah. So in other words, this dongle
hmm
has to be
yeah,
connected at the iPad or the iPhone, and
yeah,
then the USB-C cable into the dongle from the MK2. So
yeah, yeah.
that's a very important distinction. I've had people ask me online or on Reddit, man, I've been trying different things and it's not working. So that's the thing. You have to the camera connection kit needs to connect at the iPhone or the iPad. The
hmm
cable runs out to the SP. So
Right. Yeah, totally. I think one thing that's interesting to talk about is the bus effects.
mm,
If there's anything that is difficult about this piece of gear, it would be the bus effects. That's the most
mm,
complicated thing. And knowing when and where to use them and stuff,
mm,
like I get it. I get how it works. I know my way around it pretty good at this point.
uh,
I still don't know the workflow though yet. I don't know what's going to work for me.
so that's interesting, man. What about the bus effects is kind of throwing you for a loop?
Well, it's not so much throwing me for a loop. It's more what it is like for me, I work so experimentally all the time. So
Mm,
it's like like every beat I make is like almost a different workflow sometimes, which is like the whole most worst way to work probably, but I can't help myself. But I guess for me, it's all about the resampling, and I kind of do everything before the fact.
mm,
So it's kind of planning and gain staging type of stuff. You got to really kind of think about exactly what you plan to do, sort of. And
mm.
then, like you've said, at the very end, you may have your compressor and EQ or vinyl sim, and then you'll run the whole beat kind of through that. But
Yeah.
depending on what vibe and what sound you want to get, you want to be careful about putting that vinyl sim effect on a specific pad. Now,
Yeah.
one thing about that though is you can always run any of these pads without hitting any of the bus effects. You can put it at the very end past the bus effects. So you can
Yeah.
bypass all effects if you want.
Yeah, for
So
sure.
it is possible still, even if you've
Mm.
already kind of put effects on there, but you got to plan this stuff out.
Yeah. And for me, it's like, if you want, like for me, vinyl sim or like the 303 compressor, I mean, the 303 vinyl sim with the compressor or even a compressor as the final, thing that the mix runs through before you resample the whole beat. So let's say you resample the whole beat and this is outside of a performance. So like you're just resampling your whole track. You want to get it done. It sounds great to you. So, bam, let's throw some vinyl sim on there or a compressor or whatever it is as the final effect on the track. So when you do that, um, if you have vinyl sim on other things that you've sampled in, you're just double stacking
Right.
vinyl sim, and it gets to be too much. So for me, it's like, okay, well, let's hold off on the vinyl sim until the very, 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 very end when I know this is like a full track. You know what I mean? So that's kind of how I've been thinking about it.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
What do you think about the pattern sequencer? In the history of the SP, from what I'm understanding, a lot of people have gone to the resample method more than the pattern sequencer because it's so limited. But there are some updates with this SP, and what do you think? Are we friends with the pattern sequencer or not? What do you
I
think?
mean, I am. I'm 100% friends with him.
All right.
To me, it's like, yeah, like you use the pattern sequencer along with resampling.
hmm
You might resample a pattern to be able to, do whatever. If you want to filter down the whole pattern, you
Hmm.
you would a quick way to do that is resampling. You could do it. There's a million different ways you could probably do it, but
Hmm.
uh, man, when it comes to the pattern sequencer, it's light years ahead of the old one.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I'm not familiar too much with how the old one worked, but it's it to me. I've said this to you guys, you and some of our friends a bunch. Is um I feel like this gear, this SP is, it's limited in just the right ways, and it's limited enough but not too much. And so the pattern sequencer is actually, I find pretty fun to work with.
yeah,
Anytime, and I like using it because I want to be able to take a little something out if I need to. And you can take, as long as it's not resampled yet, you can take, a
yeah,
hi-hat out or a
yep,
snare that's off
yep,
or something. You could take anything out, and you can be pretty flexible with how you arrange your song with the pattern sequencer. And and the fact that you can do pattern chains as well, I think that's a new thing too.
yeah, yep,
That's a big deal. If I didn't have some of these features, I don't know how much I'd love the SP right now.
yeah,
I'm not sure, but
yeah.
as is, I'm good with how it is right now. Like, if they don't change anything, I'm good with it. There's a couple changes that could be cool, but if they don't change anything, I'm good.
Yeah, that's how I feel, man. I feel like, I mean, I can't tell you a bad thing about this thing right now. Like I'm like head over heels, man. I'm loving the workflow. Of course, I could probably say, okay, well, this or that if you really hard press me,
Hmm.
but I love it, man. I love just, and like I said, like I mentioned earlier, it's been a long time since I've worked in a dedicated piece of hardware.
Hmm.
I've been DAW based for, you know, 10 years, probably 8 years. You know what I mean? To work in a piece of hardware like this and to get to know its quirks and its the things it can do and can't do. After 10 years of being away from hardware, I, I'm I love it, man. I love it.
Yeah.
I love the workflow. I love just being out of Ableton and working in a dedicated piece of hardware, man, for sure.
So being somebody who works in Ableton a lot, like, and you know, so is there any time as you've been working with this? I mean, it's only been about a week and a half for you,
Yeah,
anyways. But
right.
is there any point where you're like, man, like, this is a limitation. Like, in Ableton I could just do this, but I can't do this here. Like, is there anything like that that you've run into so far?
I mean, yeah, there are things where you're like, okay, so you'll have a track. So, for example, I recorded some guitar into a pattern that had some synths in there, and I thought, man, the guitar has a little bit too much low end. So now I have to get rid of some of that low end. So what I had to do was I had to resample it and then bring that resample back into the pattern without the low end in there. So those kind of little tricks would be really simple to solve in Ableton. I just throw a EQ on there and pull down a high pass filter, good to go. But this, it requires some thinking, and it's
Hmm.
it's a process. You have to like actually go, okay, wow, now I have to resample that. But I feel like at the same time that whole thinking process of how this machine makes you work, it opens you up to more creative ideas. Like,
Hmm.
you know, um, the way it makes you think about resampling or applying effects and resampling that stuff, you wouldn't think about that in Ableton. You just throw a filter on there and you're good to go. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But in this machine, you have to resample. So now you're like, okay, well, man, let me resample this. Oh, dang, now I can play that sample in however I really want to. Like, I don't
Hmm.
have to, you know what I mean? It just
Yeah.
opens your mind up to a lot more uh, creative ideas, in my
Yeah.
opinion. Like the whole resample workflow, which is what this is really based around. Like anytime you want to change a sound, change a pad, you're pretty much going to have to resample it.
Hmm.
And that
Yeah.
whole workflow makes you think different.
Yeah. And I'll say too, like it might be a little bit more frustrating if we actually had to resample, but we have skip back. So like that makes it a lot easier,
It does. It
as
does.
long as
That's
it's
true.
not more than 25 seconds,
Yeah,
you're
that's
pretty
true.
good.
That's absolutely true. And the skip back has been like a lifesaver. Like, so there's actually times where you can't record, but the skip back is working at the same time. So it's this that skip back is awesome for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And what's up, Gamma? We see you in there.
Yo, what
Gamma's
up,
waiting
Gamma?
on his soon. I can't wait till he gets his.
Yeah, yeah, Gamma.
Y'all gotta check out Gamma Pods. Check out his YouTube. So yeah, man, skip back is great. What else was I gonna say about this whole workflow? I'm trying to remember. Um, yeah, I don't know.
Are you finding the workflow to be intuitive? Like I really am. I'm
Yeah,
like my guitar is running into this. I just find it to be really intuitive and really like hands on. It's not like, oh
yeah,
man, I have to do,
yeah.
this and that. Everything's pretty much ready to go. How do you feel about the workflow?
Yeah, man. Like you said, it's really nice to not be in a DAW and like, but to have like pretty much all I need to make a beat. Like I spend a lot of time like just being experimental and making sounds. And with this, it's
Right.
like it just puts me in the right zone to just be like, all right, I'm gonna bring some of these sounds in. Super easy to bring the sounds in. Let's make some loops. Okay, I just made a loop. Let me, put that into a pattern. Okay, let me make a different pattern. Like there's something about it that just I'm not getting stuck in the ways I got stuck before. And maybe it's just because I'm excited about using it, but I really love like the pattern chain situation. Like
Mm-hmm.
and it's just like all I gotta do is make like a little pattern chain and I already got a song kind of started pretty much going. And I don't know. I really love it. Like I said, using Koala, like Koala is a resample monster. And coming to this, it's just very similar. And
Mm.
I yeah, I really love it. And the thing too, another big point for me is Ableton or any other DAW. Um, you're sitting there in front of every possibility you could possibly want. So choice paralysis becomes a real thing, at least for me. I struggle with that. That's why I'm
Mm.
getting into a lot of generative processes and stuff like that, because making these choices, I get paralysis. And I'm not
Mm.
like even with chopping beats and figuring out where I want to arrange them. Like
Mm.
even that is like, well, there's like 10 different ways I could do this that sound really dope. Like I
Mm.
don't know which one to choose. So anyways, but when you're sitting in something like Ableton, it's like the world is your oyster. But it's like with this, like I said, it's limited in just enough ways where you can do everything with this.
Mm.
But because of the limitations, it just, like you said, it causes your brain to just think creatively
Mm.
and just make it happen. And it's fun. I don't know, it's just really
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah. With the whole choice paralysis, it's interesting that you say that. And I was thinking like, man, I have hundreds and hundreds of plugins, and I don't suffer from that. Like I don't suffer from choice paralysis.
Yeah.
Like I don't ever get like caught up in, oh man, what plugin should I use, here and there. Like, and I think about like a lot of, you know, top paid, mixing engineers and mastering engineers that have everything at their disposal. What it comes down to is what you hear, what you've used, and what gives you the results that you want. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Is what you typically go to. You may have 300 compressors, but what was the compressor that gave you that feeling the last time you used it on a snare or something? So you'll typically go to those kind of things. So that, and I was just thinking like that's pretty much how I approach like, using when I have everything, all these options at my disposal. I
Hmm.
typically go for those that have given me success in the past, and
Yeah.
not just, being like kind of bogged down with all the options.
Yeah. And I think even in that, kind of queuing on that from, it's almost like this box for somebody like us
Mm,
who comes from a boom bap place, who's
right,
really into lo-fi,
right,
now, and
absolutely,
we kind of have similar ears and sensibilities to a
right,
certain degree. Like this box automatically kind of gives you some of that,
right.
if you, I mean, you don't have to go that route, but it can go lo-fi so easily and so
Sure,
quickly.
sure, sure.
So it's almost like that's part of why the choice paralysis is less there, because this kind of does that and brings that sound, so I don't have to like search for all the different compressors or all the different things. And I can do that. Like I can bring in a synth, which automatically a synth can sound like super clean, super hot, and it almost stands out too much in a beat. But with
Mm,
this, I can run that synth through 404, vinyl sim, and suddenly it's got a
it's a
grit to
whole
it.
new
It's
thing.
got, yeah,
Yeah,
it's got a nice vibe to it,
yeah, yep, yeah, for sure, for sure, absolutely, man. Yeah, yeah. So all in all, man, I'd have to say like for me, it's met every expectation for me. Like I was when they announced the pre-orders, I was within 3 hours. I made a pre-order, so I knew if they got this right, that I wanted to be 100% full throttle on board with this, and they killed it.
Yeah.
This is everything that I would expect from this old SP,
Hmm.
this old SP, this new SP is everything that I wanted in this. So
Yeah, that's dope, man. That's dope.
yeah,
So, everybody who has been watching and stuff, and who watches on the replay, we'd love to hear in the comments. Like, let us know what if you've had the old SP, or you've gotten your new one now, or if maybe you just work with MPC or whatever. You're not really into the SP. Just curious, like, what are your thoughts? When it comes to beat making and all that, as well.
yeah,
Um,
absolutely,
we'd love
yeah,
to hear it and continue this discussion.
absolutely.
Um, Bryce, where can people find you?
That's a good question. Where can they find me?
They can't.
They can't. I'm on TikTok. I think I'm under Upright Beats, or
Mhm.
I don't know.
Yeah,
Yeah, and
there's a link in the description already.
yeah, there you go. There you go. Thanks, Marsh.
So, and you're also on YouTube, which you're gonna
Yeah, Beats and
on your own
Guitars.
channel.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
there, again, you'll have a hard time finding him because it's a new channel, but
Yeah.
there's a link in the description. You can find my stuff too, and down below. Probably, I don't know. The best thing is I have a new beat sketches little album. So you can check that out on Bandcamp for free, and there's a bunch of other links to Instagram and stuff
Yeah, and
in
I'm
there
going to be
too.
doing some videos on the SP, the guitars, here real soon on my channel. So Beats and Guitars, like Marsh said, the link is in the description. Um, Follow me. Let's see what this SP MK2 can do. Right.
Yeah, let's do it, man. Cool, man. Well, I think it was a good discussion. Thank you everybody for watching and hanging out with us, and we'll be back the next time as well, man.
Definitely.
All right, talk to you guys later.